Chapter 11. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hearing Cresh's report, Shore paused and put away his wand. He knew that Dumbledore should have taken the fake locket and Regulus' body. He walked quickly to the door and saw Dumbledore, who looked tired, and a coffin. After opening it. Dumbledore was obviously busy for a long time. The wrinkles on his face were deeper and his hair and beard were not well taken care of. It seems that Voldemort's ban is not so easy to break. I don't know if Dumbledore drank the poison himself this time. Shore didn't care about these things. All his eyes were now on the coffin, although he had no empathy for Regulus, his cheap father. At this moment, an unspeakable feeling came over him and his throat began to choke. When the system selected his identity, his bloodline had been replaced, so strictly speaking, he was indeed Regulus' son. No matter how he counted, Regulus would have to have a child at the age of 16. It was so bloody. Dumbledore looked at Shaw, whose eyes were red. He already understood the general situation, and a trace of heartache flashed in his eyes. One Voldemort, I don't know how many families were destroyed. Child, your father is a hero, don't be sad, he has made great contributions to the magic world, and death is just another great adventure. Shore walked to the coffin, stroked the coffin with his hand, but did not have the courage to open the coffin lid. He whispered a few times about his father, and turned back to Dumbledore after a while. Thank you, Professor, can you preside over my father's burial? Dumbledore opened his mouth and wanted to ask about the locket first, but seeing Shaw so sad, he sighed and nodded. Okay. Dumbledore thought for a while and said. Do you need me to gather more people to watch the ceremony? It's also good to clear your father's name in public. His heroic name should not be buried. Shore was stunned, thought about it, and shook his head to refuse. No, not yet. My father died because of Voldemort, but Voldemort is not dead. So I will use my own power to completely kill Voldemort before I can announce to everyone the greatness of my father. Even though Dumbledore's mentality was as steady as Mount Tai, he was shocked when he heard this. Shore, what do you know? Shore said expressionlessly, Horcrux. Dumbledore narrowed his eyes slightly. Child, tell me, everything. Shore took out the Slytherin locket from his arms. Professor, this is Voldemort's Horcrux, which has been destroyed by my father, so I know that Voldemort was not completely dead 11 years ago. Dumbledore took the locket and studied it carefully. With his experience, he quickly determined that the locket had been made into an extremely evil black magic prop before. After a hard time in the cave, he got a replica. Dumbledore was originally going to ask Shaw about this after the funeral, but he didn't expect that the other party was quite sensible and took out the real Horcrux debris on his own initiative. Shaw's words also confirmed his previous speculation that Voldemort was not dead. Dumbledore said slowly. You are a sensible child. It is indeed not appropriate to clear Regulus' name now, but don't worry, I will use my own name to guarantee Regulus, at least his wanted order will be revoked. Shaw bowed slightly to express his gratitude. Thank you, Professor. Dumbledore reached out and rubbed Shaw's hair. He was actually very happy. Regulus died to destroy Voldemort's Horcrux, so his child was naturally his ally. He was worried that this child with extraordinary talent would go astray before, but now he is much more relieved. In the future, he will guide him well and give him more care. He can't make the same mistake again. Under the setting sun in the evening, in a remote but beautiful suburb, this is the exclusive cemetery of the Black family. Shaw put a bunch of white lilies in front of Regulus's grave, vowing to do something in his heart, and Cresh had already cried. Dumbledore watched the sky darken and patted Shaw on the shoulder. Ah, kid, it's time to go back. Okay, Professor. The three of them teleported back to Grimmauld Place, and Dumbledore handed Shaw the fake Slytherin locket. Take this as a souvenir. I need to keep the real one as evidence to clear your father's name in the future. By the way, please keep the matter of the Horcrux a secret. Shore did not object, silently put the locket in his arms, and politely invited. Professor, please be sure to visit my home. When I was a child, I served dishes in a Chinese restaurant. The kind boss taught me some Chinese food. You have done so much for me and my father. I can only cook a delicious meal to show my gratitude. Please. Dumbledore shook his head and interrupted. Some other day, school is about to start. As the headmaster, I have been absent from work for many days. If I don't go back to school, your Professor McGonagall will come to hunt me down. Okay, that's for next time. Dumbledore winked at Shaw before leaving. The Black family has a lot of books. You are still young now. I suggest you try not to read those books about dark magic. It is not good for your growth. Goodbye, child. Shaw watched Dumbledore apparate away, thinking about his last instructions, and couldn't help but laugh. If the old bee knew about my talent for dark magic in Azkaban, I guess he wouldn't be so confident in me. At least he would rush into the house and confiscate those books. This incident diluted Shaw's previous sadness. He shook his head and walked into the old house. In the following time, Shaw began to devote himself to learning magic. During this period, the Ministry of Magic sent a letter by Owl to inform him about the cancellation of the wanted order for Regulus. The process was similar to Snape's. Dumbledore guaranteed that Regulus was actually a spy sent by the Order of the Phoenix to Voldemort. This matter was also reported in the Daily Prophet, and the news of the return of the heir of the Black family spread like wildfire. Many pure-the-blood families sent letters one after another, asking questions and so on, but they all wanted to prove that they had occupied the industry. But Shaw did not reply to any of them. It was not that he did not care, but some things would not have any better results if he came forward now. Even if he could get back some of the industry, the situation would only be extremely ugly. Anyway, Shaw was not short of money now, so he was not in a hurry. In the magic world, strength is respected, so Shaw still concentrated on absorbing knowledge. After he had strength, all the lost things would naturally return to his hands, and he would gain more. Transfiguration torture. Sharp blade to seal the throat. Flocks of birds. Armor protection. In the underground spell training room, Shaw kept casting spells on the alchemy dolls, and there was a pile of broken and twisted dolls in the corner. These were the results of his half-month efforts. Sweating will naturally pay off. Shaw took a sip of the tea handed over by Klesh, then opened the system to take a look. System-host, Shaw, occupation, wizard/poker magician, magic power, 40, 100 for adults, talent, thunder element affinity max water element affinity level 1. Parseltongue level 1, can only be used for simple and snake's talk, uncontrollable, black magic 8, Azkaban, expand, skills, occlumency max birds flock 5, armor 4, levitation 3, killing 3, blade 3, transfiguration 3, corrosive mist 2, petrification 1, purification 1, unlocking 1, level 1 faith, 3800. /level 2 faith, 98. /level 3 faith, 0, lottery, 1000/100/10 faith per draw, mission, grab the Savior's fame, 1 ring. Chapter 12. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shaw curled his lips, somewhat dissatisfied. Although he had learned a lot of white magic spells for the first and second graders, they were all only at level 1, which meant that he could barely cast them. His black magic talent was worthy of level 8. Even the spells he learned by himself had all reached level 3 in a short period of time. He was very skilled in using them, and could cast spells silently at level 4, however, after reaching level 5 of spells and level 8 of talent, it was no longer possible to make progress simply by hard work. This required a more thorough understanding, unless he obtained legendary points. Moreover, the power of spells was also limited by his physical fitness and magic reserves. His actual combat level was probably only that of a 5th or 6th grader. He would have to fight to know the details. Now Shaw had also figured out the difference between spell levels. Level 1 was barely able to cast spells, level 2 was skilled in casting spells, level 3 was proficient, level 4 was silent casting, and level 5 was silent and wandless, and could change the running route of spells. The power of the spell also increases from small to large, and the control of the spell becomes more proficient. After reaching the 5th level, the spell can change the direction and some changes like a flock of birds, and these magic principles are all self-explored, and there is no specific introduction in J.K. Rowling's original work. Shaw waved at the alchemy doll. Avada Kedavra, a green light as thick as a little finger instantly blew the doll's head to pieces. Looking at the dust, Shaw reluctantly nodded. The power of the third-level Kedavra curse is okay, but why don't I feel that the black magic has infiltrated my mind, nor do I feel that my nature has changed. When using black magic, I don't need to be malicious. It's strange. Is it due to talent? Or did I practice brain occlusion? Shore, who is still a magic rookie, can't get any results from asking himself, tomorrow is the first day of school. It's better to go to Hogwarts to ask professionals for these questions. He still has a lot of questions. He glanced at the system again. Although he, like many people, had wondered about the origin of the system and whether there were any unspeakable secrets that had been stimulating his ambitions, Shaw did not care. Instead, he was happy to cooperate. After all, only those who are valuable can be used. How can one live in a cage? It is better to live more freely and wantonly than to worry about the future. He felt a little uncomfortable because there were already 98 points of level 2 faith value in the system. This was neither good nor bad. There will definitely be big surprises in the level 2 lottery, and these faith points are all obtained from the children. If I had known earlier, I would have chosen to perform all the performances in school. It seems that I can't keep a low profile after going to Hogwarts. Shaw packed up the spare wand, went upstairs to the study, took out an exquisite notebook, and made plans for himself again. The short-term goal is also the main goal, which is the Hogwarts Charmer plan to harvest the faith points of the little wizards and improve their strength. The medium-term goal is to deal with the pure-blood families, infiltrate the Ministry of Magic, and expand influence and power. The long-term goal is naturally to control the magic world, break the law of secrecy, and harvest the faith value of the world, then reach the peak of life, marry 10 or 8, cough cough. As for those small goals, such as dealing with goblins and Voldemort, they are all easy things. If this notebook of Shore is seen by outsiders, he will probably be suspected of being a mentally retarded child, or if Dumbledore sees it, he will probably arrest Shore as the successor of the third generation of the Dark Lord. Swish. At this time, Kresh teleported and held a letter in both hands. Master, this is a letter from a foreign country, saying that it is your magic fan. Shore put away the notebook and took the envelope in confusion. His magic fans are all ordinary people. How can someone find the address of his old house? The address of the letter is a wizard village in Austria. After opening the envelope, he opened the letter and looked at the signer first. Luger Perrier. No, it should be Pioneer Loser, the Pioneer Loser. Interesting. Shore smiled, knowing that this was a very meaningful pseudonym, so he began to read the text. Dear Mr. Shore, hello, I am writing to you because I like your magic show very much. Yes, I am not a muggle, but a wizard, but I am very interested in muggle research, and I especially admire your bold combination of magic and magic. Of course, I am also very interested in the pure magic shows you perform. I have racked my brains and still can't crack it, but it also brings a lot of fun to my boring life. But what I like and admire most is you. You are not even old enough to go to school, but you can already instinctively drive magic to assist in magic performances. This is a very amazing talent. I am still somewhat knowledgeable. If you have any doubts in the future, you can communicate with me, your fan. By the way, I am very confused about Mr. Shaw's views on muggles, and your original intention of performing magic in the muggle world. This can neither improve your strength nor bring benefits. This once made me very confused. Please let me know, your old fan, Rouge Pilar. Shore's mouth corners slightly raised, and he had some guesses in his mind. He really thought it was very interesting, and the next moment, the system prompt also arrived. Ding, release the task. Inherit the witch party. How can the host not have a group of forces of his own? Please fool Grindelwald and get the witch party. Task reward, 300 second level faith points, a little legendary value. After reading the task, Shaw's heart beat fast. Sure enough, he guessed it right, and he was not surprised that Grindelwald knew of his existence. The other party was actually a hang bee, with the ability to predict. Could it be that his appearance changed the future? The mission reward is also very tempting, it's a wave of fat, but this mission is also very difficult, you have to be prepared for a protracted war. He quickly read the text of the letter again, then took out a blank envelope, thought about the words and began to write a reply, Dear Mr. Pearl, hello, for your love. Half an hour later, Shaw wrote the letter and put it in the envelope, and handed it to Klesh. Go and reply. By the way, go to Diagon Alley to buy me a strong owl. I should have a very fixed pen pal in the future. A cross-border postman must be strong. Klesh took the envelope, said yes, master and operate away. September 1st, 9 am, Shaw has finished his morning training and is eating breakfast. They are all some Chinese delicacies that Klesh has studied the recipes himself. There are soup dumplings, fried dough sticks, soy milk, etc. Although the taste is not very authentic, it is much better than eating bread sandwiches for 3 meals a day. Shaw took a sip of soy milk and said to Klesh on the small table. Klesh, take good care of the house after I go to school. By the way, after a while, you use the polyjuice potion to sell some antiques without magic again, and send the money to Albert. He can't cut off the capital chain. Klesh didn't care about the food in his mouth after hearing the order, and said with a cough. Klesh can go to Hogwarts with the young master. I can do other things you ordered when I have time. Oh. Can you still enter and leave Hogwarts freely? Yes, there are many house elves in the kitchen of Hogwarts. I can join temporarily. I just need to report to the leader of the elves. How can the young master not have Klesh service? Shaw touched his chin and thought about it, but he didn't object. Some of his plans really need an errand boy. Okay, then you can follow me, but you don't have to get on the train with me. You can just teleport to Hogwarts at night. Klesh jumped up happily immediately. After dinner, Shaw began to pack up his school supplies, in addition to textbooks, props and clothes. Among them was a set of specially made exquisite playing cards and a bottle of potion shining with a golden color. On the back of the special playing cards was a throne suspended on a pentagram, emitting a red and blue luster, which was very charming. This was what he had customized for Borgin Burke, the black-hearted alchemist, after he used the polyjuice potion to pretend to be an adult and went to Diagon Alley last time. The Burke family is a famous alchemy family in the magic world. This time Shaw not only spent a lot of money, but also provided precious alchemy materials and refining formulas, and finally signed a contract to keep the secret formula confidential, in addition to being hard enough to be used as darts. The biggest function of the special playing cards is to store a spell. This was a technique he had accidentally seen in the alchemy area of the family's collection of books, and he had the idea of creating a magic similar to 10,000 swords returning to the origin. Imagine it, in a certain enemy scene, he waved his hand gracefully, and dozens or hundreds of playing cards floated behind him. The next moment, the enemy was blown up by the overwhelming spells. Well, things are beautiful, but the reality is still skinny. After Shaw got the special playing cards, he found that it was difficult to engrave storage spells in playing cards. The main reason was that his current understanding of magic was too low, so in half a month, he only had time to engrave 5 playing cards, and they were all the spells he was most familiar with. Flocks of birds. Although the dream of a big move in the sky cannot be realized for the time being, it can still be used for emergency, and that bottle of potion is the lucky spirit potion, a precious magic potion that can make people lucky. It took Klesh many channels to find this, and finally spent 700 galleons to get eat a little bit. By the way, I also bought some strengthening potions such as temporary agility, physique and senses. Anyway, Shaw is rich, so he has all these in reserve, just in case. After all, there is a Voldemort in Hogwarts this year, and he is his prey. Shaw is not a reckless man. If he can use money to defeat the enemy, why not use it? Master, it's time to go to King's Cross Station. Shaw nodded and put the small gift prepared for a stingy professor into the ring. Hee. This is what he asked Klesh to find in the house where Sirius lived before he was imprisoned. Finally, Shaw picked up the birdcage. Let's go. Chapter 13. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 2 figures suddenly appeared in a remote corner of King's Cross Station. The leading boy had messy hair and a cold and handsome temperament, followed by a house elf carrying a birdcage. The people who came were Shaw and Kresh. Shaw was wearing a pure black slim-fitting suit today, a gentleman's hat on his head, and a delicate pattern engraved with gold thread on his collar. He also had a brooch with the black family crest on his chest, which made him indescribably noble, and now Kresh was also wearing a butler's uniform, unusually energetic and proper. Kresh, give me the birdcage, you can go home or go directly to Hogwarts. Master, how can I let you carry things, why not? Give me the birdcage, get out. Kresh muttered, hesitated for a few seconds before giving the birdcage to Shaw, and then teleported away regretfully. Shaw was speechless. He wanted to be polite, but elves, such servile creatures, could not be treated too well. He then carried the birdcage and strolled on the platform, looking for platforms 9 and 10, along the way. Many people looked at this exquisite boy walking his bird. Some people recognized Shaw's identity as a genius magician, but when they wanted to ask for his autograph, they lost him on platform 9. These people sighed that Shaw was worthy of being a magician and performed a living disappearance trick. Again, when Shaw passed through the darkness, it was like walking through the waves. When his vision was clear again, he appeared in a station scene in the style of the last century. He looked around. There were parents everywhere giving their children various instructions and saying goodbye, and it was very lively. Of course, the most eye-catching thing was a steam train lying on the rails, the Hogwarts Express. Shaw was about to get on the train when he heard a surprised scream. Shore! Shore looked sideways and saw a family of 3 with blonde hair, exactly Draco's family. Shore was a little confused. Narcissa was obviously from the black family, but why didn't she have black hair? Before he could think about it, Draco had already run over with his short legs. Shore, you're here too. By the way, this is my father and mother, and also your uncle and aunt. We are very close by blood. Lucius was holding a ceremonial stick, still arrogant, and said indifferently. Shore, a good little guy, you must study hard when you go to school in the future. Shore was speechless. Who was he pretending to be? And Narcissa, with a complicated expression, gently pushed her husband, and then said to Shore gently. Child, you have suffered so much over the years. She handed over another bag. Here are the clothes and some pastries I prepared for you. You can eat some pastries if you are hungry on the train. Hogwarts is located on a high ground, and the temperature is very low all year round. Remember to wear these sweaters. Shore's expression froze, and he didn't know how to deal with it for a moment. If everyone was arrogant and unreasonable, he could naturally treat them with courtesy, but Narcissa, the aunt, used a warm offensive, and it didn't seem fake, which made Shaw a little overwhelmed, so the scene was instantly awkward. In the end, it was Draco, the warm-up king, who came to the rescue. Shore, take it, the sweater that Mom made is very warm. Although you don't need it now, you will know its goodness when winter comes. Shore took the bag from Narcissa's hand and forced a smile. Thank you. Narcissa reached out to touch Shaw's head, and hesitated to shrink back. Just when Lucius was about to ask Shaw about Regulus, Narcissa pulled him again and continued. You cousins have gone to school, you should take good care of each other. Draco, especially you should learn more from Shaw in the future, and if you encounter any trouble, remember to write to me. Draco patted his chest and said. I know, Mom, you guys go back, Shaw and I are going to get on the train. Shore didn't want to stay any longer, nodded slightly to the Malfoys and walked towards the train, and Draco still had to move the box. He shouted. Shore, wait for me. Shore had no choice but to take out his wand and wave it casually, and the box floated in the air, and there was a faint arc flashing under the box. Draco jumped excitedly and ran to Shaw to praise. Huh, Shaw, you are really amazing, I can also do a little evil curse now. Behind the two, Lucius and Narcissa both stared. This is a silent spell. Although it's just a levitation spell, the child behaves very casually. Draco really didn't lie. Shaw is indeed a super genius. Narcissa is very proud of it. Although she is married, she still has the blood of Blythe in her veins. Black's blood. Although Lucius had already recognized Shaw's talent in his heart, he still said stubbornly. Humph, only those who can grow up can be called geniuses. Get on the Hogwarts Express, Draco called. Sure, let's go to the school director's compartment. It seems that your family is also a school director. Shore narrowed his eyes and said self-deprecatingly. The Black family is no longer a school director. You go by yourself. After that, he found an empty compartment and walked in. Draco naturally would not go to the school director's compartment alone. He followed Shaw into the ordinary compartment with a box with a damaged bottom. Shaw was not surprised. He waved his cane to help Draco put the suitcase with the floating spell. In fact, the other party's suitcase was not an ordinary box. The traceless extension spell was also cast inside. The Malfoys doted on Draco very much. I don't know how many things were stuffed inside. The two sat down by the window, and Draco kept telling some interesting stories, showing off vaguely. Dad didn't buy me a flying broom after all, but he promised me that if I can join the college team next year, he would buy me the latest broom. After going to school, we don't have to be afraid of anyone. The Slytherin dean and my family have a very good relationship. Mom is afraid that I can't get used to school. Shore was very speechless. At this moment, he regretted that he didn't spend energy to learn some unimportant spells, such as blocking ears and plugged ears or locking throats and sticking lips. In desperation, he had to take out a potion textbook and read it. Draco was amazed again when he saw this. Wow, Shaw, this is your third grade textbook. Have you finished studying the first and second grade textbooks by yourself? It's amazing. Shaw couldn't bear it anymore and said coldly. Can you shut up? Draco was stunned, and suddenly recalled the scene when the two met for the first time. Then he remembered that Shaw was not a good-tempered person. He didn't dare to say anything more. After hesitating for a while, he also took out standard spells from the suitcase and started reading. After a while, two silly fat guys came over. They were Goyle and Crabbe, Draco's followers since childhood. Draco wanted to introduce him to Shaw, but under Shaw's cold eyes, he had to give up. The two fat guys didn't dare to say anything for a while. After all, even the boss was scared, so a weird picture appeared in the carriage. Half an hour later, the train started slowly. Draco, who had just been quiet for a while, seemed to suddenly remember something. After putting down the book, he stood up and said excitedly. Sure, why did we forget Harry? Do you want to go with me to play with him? Shaw said indifferently. No, and I think Harry doesn't need a friend like you now. Draco didn't understand, but he also knew that Shaw didn't want to go, so he had to leave with his two followers. Shaw shook his head and laughed. The love-hate relationship between Deha is about to begin again. Chapter 14. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang, 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 that the train was running in the Highlands of Scotland, and the breeze blew in from the window, bathing Shaw, who was reading the potion textbook seriously. He was cramming at the last minute at this moment. The textbooks that had to be memorized by rote did not need to be practiced for the time being, and his memory was abnormally good now. Naturally, Shaw, who had experienced the college entrance examination, had no pressure. Shaw had no choice. He knew Snape's arrogant nature. Given his relationship with Sirius, he would probably get the same treatment as Harry in the potion class, so in order to be criticized less, he could only talk less and make fewer mistakes. Suddenly, there was a sound of the door opening, followed by a female voice. Sir, have you seen a toad? A man named Neville lost one. Shaw waved his hand to indicate that he had not seen it, and continued to look at the book attentively, but the next moment he heard the girl's surprised scream. Ah, you are Shaw, the genius magician, right? Then Shaw felt his eyes darken, and saw a hairy blonde girl appear in front of him, almost sticking to his face. The girl continued enthusiastically. Hello Shaw, I am Hermione Granger, your most loyal fan. I have watched every magic show you performed in London. You are so handsome on the stage. By the way, since you are here, it means you are also a little wizard. So, may I ask if your previous magic show was magic? Shaw was stunned, and looked at Hermione's mouth opening and closing, spitting out words in a magical way. With this lung capacity and accuracy of pronunciation, it would be a pity not to do crosstalk. Shaw quietly moved his butt to the window, and after Hermione asked 100,000 whys, he also handed her a glass of water considerately. "Thank you for liking my magic show, beautiful and enthusiastic lady. Please calm down first." Hermione blushed, took the water cup and sat on the seat opposite, and said shyly. I was indeed rude just now, but I have too many questions to ask you. What are the principles of your magic?" Shore's head hurt a little, and he quickly waved his hand to stop Hermione from talking. "Miss Granger, the reason why magic is fascinating is it's unknown. After deciphering, it loses its fun." Hermione tilted her head and thought about it, and thought so, and then took out another deck of cards. "Okay, I won't explore it. Then can you use my deck of cards to perform a close-up magic, and it would be better if you can sign on it." Faced with this enthusiastic fan, who was called Hermione, Shore really couldn't say why he refused. He reached out to take the cards and played with them in his hand. He found that they were all special cards that he used to perform before. It seems that Hermione is really his true fan. Hermione watched the playing cards in Shaw's hands open and close like a peacock spreading its tail, and then like a long river falling like a waterfall. These playing cards really seemed to have life in his hands. She just thought Shaw was so cool that her palms were red from excitement. When Shaw was performing a few close-up guessing games for Hermione, the carriage was suddenly opened again. "Hey, the most noble and ancient Black is playing tricks on the mudbloods, everyone come and see." Shaw paused, and the playing cards seemed to lose control and scattered all over the floor. Hermione turned back and glared at the person who came, and then leaned over to pick up the playing cards with heartache. Shaw turned back suddenly and saw a buck-toothed boy leading a group of students in Snake College uniforms gathered in the aisle. Hermione asked in confusion. "Sure, what does mudblood mean?" Shaw stood up silently without explaining, looking at the buck-toothed boy and said coldly. "I advise you to be polite. Leave before I get angry." The buck-toothed man held his ears and laughed arrogantly. We just came to see what the heir of the Black family looks like. I didn't expect that the oldest pure blood would make friends with Muggle wizards and play tricks to please them. Black is really degenerate. It's simply a shame for pure blood." Shore stopped Hermione, who wanted to go forward to argue. He knew that the performance of these students was actually an extension of the family's will. Release the task. Conquer Hogwarts, first ring become the king of Slytherin, the strong are killed, progress, 0%. Task reward, first ring 1000 first level faith points. Shore was stunned. He originally just thought that these little brats were annoying and just ignored them, but the system rarely felt that it was useless to say nice things to these people, and issued a series of tasks to motivate him. "Well, then I can only convince people with virtue," so he said indifferently. "In the wizarding world, who is a disgrace is determined by the wand, Bucktooth, duel." The buck-toothed boy was stunned, and then he and the group of students behind him laughed wildly. I didn't expect the heir of the Black family to be a fool. Who does he think he is? Dumbledore's reincarnation? A freshman who hasn't even entered school yet actually challenged a senior student. TSK, the Black family is indeed in decline, and my father asked me to target him. Now it seems unnecessary. Who cares about an idiot? Shore didn't talk nonsense anymore, pulled out his wand and pointed at the group of people outside. "Are you coming up to die one by one, or a group of people coming up to die, or are you just a bunch of trash who can only talk big?" The group of people in the Snake Academy were immediately furious. "Marcus, get out of the way, let me teach this little guy a lesson." Quite arrogant. Hermione pulled Shaw anxiously. "Sure, don't be impulsive. We haven't taken a spell class yet. We can't be their opponents. Just watch." Shore pulled Hermione back to her seat. Seeing that those people still couldn't reach a conclusion, he decided to take action, so he didn't waste any more words and raised his wand gracefully. Flocks of birds, golden light suddenly appeared, and everyone squinted their eyes. Someone shouted with his eyes covered. "He's attacking by surprise, Marcus, get out of the way." The next moment, a group of golden birds appeared out of thin air, transformed into rotating cards, dragged purple and gold tail flames, and swooped down at the group of people blocking the door. The powerful impact blew the group of people far away. After the cards exploded, everyone was basically taken care of, with curly hair and dusty faces, and some cried out in pain, especially Marcus, who was the first to be hit and had already fainted. His arm was broken, not to mention how miserable it was. Ah, it hurts. Damn, how can he be so powerful? Everyone stand up and go together. Although Shaw's flock of birds can cast spells silently and without a wand, it has a greater power with the addition of a wand, but the power is diluted when attacking a group of people at once, so these people get up again and draw their wands. Hermione was stunned. She never expected Shaw to be so powerful. He is worthy of being her idol. The little girl's eyes are now full of stars. Shaw walked out of the car calmly, and saw several spells coming. Expelliarmus. Petrify all. Shaw was not panicked. He waved his wand and used the curse counter technique to pick up 2 less powerful spells. The brooch on his chest also lit up a shield to block the spells he failed to block. Petrify all. Flock of birds. Relying on the alchemical props, Shaw only attacked and did not defend, and knocked down those students below the 5th grade for a while. However, with the addition of more 6th and 7th grade students, these people also knew the armor spell, and the other side slowly defended the formation. It was the first actual battle. Shaw was very excited and wanted to shout, Avada eats the big melon, but in order not to share the 2 nests with Sirius, he still held back. The situation suddenly froze, and the 2 sides fired spells at each other, but they were very measured and did not use highly harmful spells. A trace of weirdness flashed through Shaw's mind. He did not expect that he could fight against many people alone now. It is conceivable that I know how weak the fighting power of the young wizards in Hogwarts is under Dumbledore's happy education, and those senior students are now very upset. A group of them can't even defeat Shaw, a little guy who hasn't entered school yet. I was amazed at the other party's magical talent, and I regretted why I followed him to make trouble and offended a genius for nothing. I also felt that I probably couldn't raise my head in Hogwarts in the future, because both ends of the carriage were surrounded by students watching the excitement, especially Draco. He pointed at Shaw, who was fighting in the middle, and shouted. That's Shaw, my cousin, haha, he's really awesome. Harry, who had just fallen in love with him, was also beside him. It's really awesome. Draco raised his chin. Harry, I've said it. You have to learn to make friends. If you hang out with some bad people, you will only make yourself look stupid. The red-haired Ron was furious. What did you say, you yellow-haired boy? Harry reluctantly separated the 2 people who were about to fight and quickly said to them. Shaw seems to be unable to hold on. Should we go over to help? Chapter 15. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hearing Harry's worried words, Draco quickly looked back. Sure enough, in the fierce battle, the senior students saw that they could not defeat Shaw for a long time, and heard the whispers and ridicules of people nearby. After a few people looked at each other, they all used several powerful spells. Shattered into pieces. Burning flames. Shaw's brooch shield flashed a few blue lights and was immediately broken, and the blue shield also shattered. He had to start active defense. Armor protection. Armor protection. Shaw recited several armor spells in succession, and had to move quickly, and the chic demeanor just now was gone. Several blue shields appeared one after another to barely block several shattered into pieces from the seniors. Shaw narrowed his eyes. If he only defended, his limited magic power would be consumed sooner or later, but he must not lose this fierce battle. This is a plan related to the heartthrob. He gritted his teeth and stretched out his left hand to take out 5 alchemical playing cards from his pocket and threw them upwards. The 5 playing cards were arranged in a triangular shape above his head. After being stimulated by magic, the red and blue halo circulated, and the corridor was suddenly filled with golden light again. The next moment, the senior students of the Snake Academy saw countless golden flying birds flying towards them fiercely. Each flock of flying birds this time was definitely stronger than the one Shower had just sent out. They were so scared that they all ran back desperately, knocking over many people who came to watch the excitement. In the end, 7 or 8 unlucky guys were attacked, and several figures with burnt and tattered clothes and twitching bodies lay down in the corridor. Ha! Xiao looked at his results and couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He was very satisfied. It was really cool to beat people. The flocks of birds triggered by the card is indeed stronger. After all, he engraved it in his spare time and can inject more magic power. In other words, the main function of the flocks of birds is to disturb the enemy. If it is a pure attack spell, it is estimated that there will be casualties. The crowd watching the excitement from a distance is shocked at the high-spirited Shaw in the field. I didn't expect that the freshmen who entered this year were so fierce. One person almost broke through the Serpentine Courtyard. If this person came to my college would be invincible and bully anyone they want. After cheering, Draco ran towards Shaw first, stepping on several students who were still lying on the ground pretending to be dead, but there was a girl who was faster than Draco, and Hermione jumped on Shaw's back. Sure, you are so awesome. You are worthy of being my idol. Shaw had no choice but to reach out and pull the little girl down, and also block Draco's hand that wanted to hug his arm. Don't these people know that men and women and men should not touch each other? Don't be too quick to celebrate, the matter is not over yet. Draco asked in confusion. Didn't you knock these people down and run away? Hermione, who had calmed down, pointed at the students who had escaped first and analyzed rationally. They probably won't give up until they lie down completely. These people must have seen that Shaw's props were all scrapped, so. Draco looked back and saw that the students in the 6th and 7th grades were indeed getting restless again, and they also gathered several senior students who had not participated in the battle before. This student didn't blame the students of the Snake Academy for not wanting to give up. If they couldn't take Shaw today, the Snake Academy really couldn't stay in Hogwarts in the future. 7 or 8 students in the 6th and 7th grades came over with care. The capable young man in the lead bowed slightly politely. Sure, you are indeed very strong, but you just won by relying on alchemical tools. We are not convinced of our defeat, and now it is not a matter of personal grudges, it is about the honor of Slytherin College, so we solemnly challenge you to a duel. Draco said anxiously. Senior Montague, Shaw is a pure blood, and he will enter Slytherin in the future. We are family members. Hermione followed with an angry hum. Before, you had more people and beat fewer people, and you dared to say you were not convinced. You are really shameless. Shaw stretched out his hand to push the two away, and said very seriously. You legs, step back, there are some things you don't understand, don't worry, I can win. That the two opened their mouths, but seeing Shaw's determined eyes, they could only step aside silently. Shaw looked at the Snake College student named Montague. I accept your challenge, so you should come together. Meng Tai is a 7th grade student and the strongest student in the Snake Academy. He did not participate in the battle before, but now he has to come out because of the honor of the entire Snake Academy. Meng Tai's face was not very good when he heard Xiao'er's arrogant words, but he was not sure that he could beat Xiao'er one-on-one. But he couldn't say anything about ganging up on Xiao'er, and the situation froze for a moment. Xiao'er didn't want to take the initiative at this moment, but he was drawing lots. He was still very confident. His cards and brooches were scrapped. With his real strength and unable to use black magic, he could probably only tie with a 7th grader. What's more, there is a group now, so if you can't beat him, just cheat. Isn't this a normal operation for a time traveler? He almost broke through the Snake Academy in a battle just now, but he gained a lot of faith points. The level 2 also gained more than 10 points, which obviously came from the Lion Academy students who had been unhappy with the Snake Academy for a long time. Adding the previous retention, he now has more than 4,000 level 1 faith points and 112 level 2 faith points. Well, let's do a 4-draw to cushion the gap. The light flashed 4 times in the system, and the prompt sound rang. Ding! Congratulations on getting 1 talent point. Ding! Congratulations on getting 1 talent point. Ding! Congratulations on getting level 3 Blazing Flame. Ding! Congratulations on getting level 3 Disillusionment. Not bad, especially Disillusionment, a great tool for night travel. I still need to think about whether the 2 talent points are for transformation or potion. Shaw thought about the purpose of the reward for a while, and without hesitation, he began to draw the level 2 lottery decisively. He was still a little nervous at the moment, and he didn't know what the level 2 reward would be. He must get a powerful spell, otherwise his boast would be blown up. Suddenly, I felt that 1 second was so long. Ding, congratulations on getting level 5 water prison. Shore was stunned for a moment after hearing the prompt sound. Water prison, this name sounds familiar, it seems to be as famous as someone's blue gas stove. Fuck, this is Dumbledore's special skill. Besides the Vulcan, the old bee's most powerful skill is this water prison. It seems that he used it during the battle with Voldemort in the Ministry of Magic. Shore lowered his head and muttered to himself, then slowly smiled and felt the information of the spell with his heart, then he raised his head and his eyes became sharp. Chapter 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Water prison is not a simple spell, it combines deformation and manipulation into one, mainly used to trap people, but also has lethality, depending on how the operator uses it. After learning the 5th level water prison, Shaw's deformation talent automatically increased a little, reaching the 4th level talent. Moreover, he has affinity with water elements, although it is only level 1. The bonus to water prison is also very good. When Shaw realized the spell, those who were watching the fun and didn't mind the big things had already started to make a fuss. Hey, are you guys going to fight or not? My legs are sore from standing. Hey, George, you were lying on my shoulder, why are your legs sore? Tell me, what did you do secretly under the quilt last night? Sure, hurry up and defeat those little snakes, you will be our king. Meng Tai, are you really capable? You can't even handle a little guy. Huh, Slytherin will be wiped out today. Meng Tai, who was always steady and calm, almost exploded with anger, and the students behind him couldn't bear it. Meng Tai, Shaw should not have any alchemical props. Those props are not cheap, and no one would carry a lot of them. Yes, let's go together, it's time to end this farce. But before Meng Tai nodded, Shaw on the opposite side had already raised his head, showing a malicious smile and raised his wand. Since you don't know how to choose, I'll help you choose. It just so happened that the train was passing by a lake, saving Shaw from consuming magic power to condense the water flow. He waved his wand gracefully, and the lake outside the train immediately rolled up a thick water column, like a dragon sucking water, as if controlled by an invisible big hand, forming a lifelike water python. The water python rushed straight to the train with a rush of water, broke through the window and pounced on several students from the Snake Academy, with a terrifying momentum. After looking at this powerful spell, Meng Tai secretly thought it was not good and shouted quickly. Defend together, protect everyone. 7 or 8 students immediately defended together, injecting their magic power into the advanced defense spell cast by Meng Tai. The blue protective shield that had just been erected was immediately attacked crazily by the 7 or 8 meters long and 1 meter thick water python. The huge water python rushed around in the carriage, and countless seats and door panels were broken. It kept ejecting its ferocious snake head and swinging its tail to hit the shield, which caused blue ripples to appear on the shield. The 8th, 6th and 7th grade students, who were equivalent to adult wizards, were still quite powerful. Although the water python was fierce, it could not do anything to the few people who were concentrating on defense. As soon as these 7 or 8 students breathed a sigh of relief, they began to discuss in a low voice how to fight back. After all, Shaw's magic reserve must not be much, so he definitely could not hold on for long, but they did not notice that water began to accumulate under their feet. These were all the remnants splashed out when the water python hit the shield. What these students did not know was that Shaw's magic attribute had lightning attributes, and water could conduct electricity. So the next moment, the students who were still struggling to maintain the shield suddenly felt numb under their feet, and they all began to dance the mechanical dance involuntarily. Without the blessing of magic injection, the advanced shield of all protection was immediately broken and shattered by a fierce attack from the water python. Then the anaconda immediately pounced on these people, as if there was no one around, forming a rotating circular water prison, instantly trapping several students. Those students fluttered and struggled in the water prison, very miserable and helpless. If it was Dumbledore who cast the water prison spell, it would probably be a trapping spell, at most isolating oxygen to suffocate people, or using water pressure to crush people to death, but the water prison spell was cast by Shaw now. In addition to the above methods, he couldn't control the magic power and had lightning properties, so these students were miserable. Not only did their hair stand upright due to the electricity, but they all started foaming at the mouth. This frightened the onlookers and they dared not speak for a while, and they all looked at Shaw in fear. Shaw didn't want to cause any deaths. Seeing that several students from the Snake Academy had lost their fighting power, he revoked the spell and controlled the water to flow out of the car window. Plop, plop. 7 or 8 miserable students lay on the ground again. Shaw's body swayed, his face was extremely pale, he had just used a big move, and his magic power was overdrawn. After all, his body was only 11 years old. If it weren't for the lightning attribute of magic power, the outcome of today would be unknown. Hermione and Draco ran over. Sure, are you okay? Huh, Shaw, you won again. Shaw waved his hand, refusing Hermione's support, and looked at the progress of the first round of Conquer Hogwarts, 25%. It seems that the effect of winning people over with virtue is good. After laughing secretly, he looked at the crowd said. Student Union President and Prefects, you can come and clean the floor. After saying that, he turned and walked into the carriage. After sitting down, he quickly took out a bottle of tonic potion and drank it in one gulp. Hermione and Draco followed in. Before they could close the door, Harry and Ron squeezed in. This seemed to be a signal. People were surging at the door of the carriage. Everyone wanted to squeeze into the carriage and shouted. Sure, you are so brave. Come to our Gryffindor. We need you. George, you are talking nonsense. Shaw must be from our Ravenclaw. Shaw, hello, I am Penelope, the prefect of Ravenclaw. Get out of here. Shaw is black. He will only go to Slytherin. Draco and Harry were still sensible and kept blocking the door, but it was also very difficult. The veins on their heads were exposed. Shaw was in a good mood, but now he was annoyed by the noise. After taking a sip of the water handed by Hermione, he turned around and said coldly. The sorting is not decided by me, please get out. These people were still enthusiastic and kept shouting. Shaw was helpless. Why did he always have to conquer people with virtue? He could only squeeze out the last bit of magic and waved his hand. The golden light flashed again, and a golden bird appeared out of thin air and hovered above his head, ready to pounce at any time. When the people outside the door saw this, they thought of Shaw's heroic appearance just now. Some knowledgeable people knew that this was a silent and wandless spell, and the crowd immediately scattered. However, in addition to Draco and others, there were 2 graceful and beautiful female students who did not leave. One was Penelope, who introduced herself as the head of Ravenclaw before, and the other was a girl wearing the uniform of the Snake House. This extremely beautiful girl had not made a move before. Penelope didn't bother to argue, but solemnly invited Shaw to Ravenclaw again. She seemed to be very sure that Shaw could choose any of the 4 major colleges as long as he was willing. After Penelope left, the girl from the Snake Academy spoke. Her voice was cold and pleasant. Hello Shaw, I'm Alice Foley, I'm here to apologize to you. Shaw narrowed his eyes and felt that it was interesting. He knew that the Foley family was also one of the 28 families of the Holy Spirit, but they were very low-key. Representing Slytherin? Alice shook her head. I can't represent Slytherin. I'm apologizing to you for the family. 11 years ago, the Foley family also participated in the embezzlement of Black's property. I will write a letter in a while and ask Grandpa to return it on his own initiative. I hope to get your understanding. Shaw touched his chin and looked up and down at the girl in front of him. It was just a battle, and the other party's change of position was particularly decisive. The Fry family is not very conspicuous, but the children they educate are also very extraordinary, and this kind of talent is the most dangerous, Shaw calculated in his heart. In fact, the other party's behavior was also within his expectations, but it was earlier than expected. It is said that Slytherin students nowadays are good at changing their minds according to the situation, which is indeed true. Alice's expression remained unchanged. She glanced at Draco, who was in doubt, and said slowly. This is also a manifestation of my unique vision. I wonder if you accept the apology and friendship of the Fry family, Shaw. Shore stood up and extended his hand politely. More friends, more paths. From you, I feel the friendship of the Fry family. We will be friends in the future. Alice smiled and stretched out her slender little hand to shake Shaw's. Then it shouldn't be too abrupt for me to invite you to Slytherin now. Slytherin's true style of study needs people like you to correct it. Okay, I'll ask Senior Alice to help me in the future. Both of them smiled brightly, leaving the other four people puzzled. Chapter 17. You are listening at novelfull.audio. See you in Slytherin. After Alice finished speaking, she walked away gracefully. Draco, who had been unable to hold back for a long time, said excitedly. Sure, I knew you would choose Slytherin. Hermione said worriedly. Sure, you almost wiped out Slytherin just now. If you enter Slytherin, you will be isolated. Draco looked at Hermione, the little muggle witch, with disdain, and said slowly again with a pinched voice. What do you know, a mud-blood. Before Draco finished speaking, a poker card scratched his cheek, and blood quickly flowed down his face along a small cut. Draco looked at Shaw in disbelief. Shaw took back the spinning poker card, looked at Draco with a bad look, and said in a cold voice. Draco, I don't want you to say the word mudblood again. Discrimination doesn't show your nobility. Don't say it in school. Draco was pale and nodded with difficulty. I know. Hermione asked in surprise. What does mudblood mean? Ron, who had always been invisible, said weakly. It's an extremely insulting word, equivalent to calling someone a lowly bastard. It's a humiliating name for muggle wizards by purebloods. Hermione looked at Draco in disbelief, her eyes full of anger, but thinking that the other party had been taught a lesson by Shaw, she didn't say anything more. Harry asked at this time. I've been listening to you for a long time. It turns out that Hogwarts is divided into colleges. Shaw, you want to go to Slytherin, so can I go? Hermione also nodded hurriedly. Yes, where the idol goes, I go there too. The terrified Ron quickly stopped him. Harry, all Slytherin students become dark wizards after graduation. The mysterious man who cannot be mentioned is also from Slytherin. And Hermione, you are a muggle wizard, and Slytherin only accepts pure blood. Harry and Hermione were stunned for a moment. Draco had just treated the wound on his face, and after hearing Ron's words, he couldn't help but say disdainfully. Poor boy from the Weasley family, as a shame for pure blood, how dare you insult Slytherin like this? Ron was immediately furious. Damn Malfoy. Just as Ron and Draco were about to fight, a cold shout rang out. Shut up. Shore's voice was so loud that a pin drop could be heard in the box. He didn't say anything else. He didn't want to judge right and wrong for a group of little brats who knew nothing. He took out the potion book and continued to read. The other four looked at each other, and finally Hermione mustered up the courage to speak. Sure, can I really not go to Slytherin? Has the discrimination in the magic world really reached such a point? Shore's hand paused as he turned the pages of the book, and he could not help but sigh. The world is never as beautiful as we think, but beauty can be created by ourselves. Hermione, I suggest you go to the wise Ravenclaw, where there is knowledge that can make you stronger. Shore's words hurt Hermione's heart, but she finally understood why Shore agreed to let Alice go to Slytherin when he could obviously go to other colleges. The idol is going to do a great thing, which is to create beauty with his own hands. Hermione nodded fiercely as if she had made up her mind. I know, I'll go to Ravenclaw, and I'll help you in the future. Shore looked up at the determined Hermione and knew that the girl understood what he meant. Just now, he tricked Hermione into going to Ravenclaw, which was also out of evil taste, so as to prevent this clever little witch from being dragged down by two useless men. Now he thought this idea was great. Hermione should be his exclusive little fangirl and would definitely be his rare helper in the future. Shaw took out the basic universal spell book he had already read from the ring. This is a collection of books from the Black family. It has good annotations and is better than the textbook standard spells. I'll lend it to you. Hermione's eyes lit up, and she happily took it and immediately began to read it seriously. Harry next to him was confused. For boys of this age, the power of role models is very important. He didn't understand why a strong and elegant person like Shaw would go to Slytherin, where there are so many bad guys. Finally, he hesitated and asked. "Sure, which college do you think I should go to?" Ron interrupted. "Gryffindor is the best college. Dumbledore, the greatest white wizard of this century, came from Gryffindor." Harry ignored Ron's opinion and continued to look at Shaw steadily. Shaw didn't want to care about Harry and others' business. He had his own business, but Ron, who was the most annoying person when watching movies in his previous life, kept showing off his presence in front of him, and he didn't mind teaching him a lesson on how to be a good person. In the corner of his eye, he also saw the rat Banban who was looking around Ron. Well, it was not the time to overturn the case for his cheap uncle, but when he thought about Ron being all mushy with a bald, wretched old man all day, he disliked Ron even more. "Harry, Draco said something right. Choosing some stupid people to make friends will make you look stupid." "Ron, right? Ignorance is not wrong. Being ignorant and not knowing it is stupid. Go home and study the history of magic. After you have learned about the great people who graduated from Slytherin, come and give Harry some advice. You, leave here." Ron's face turned red when he heard this. He stood up and pulled Harry. "Harry, let's go. We are obviously not welcome here." Shaw waved his hand disdainfully, and the carriage door was opened. Ron floated up involuntarily, screaming and falling out with a plop. Then the carriage door was closed again, and Shaw spoke to the stunned Harry. "Choosing a college is a matter of the sorting ceremony. I just want to say that there are good and bad students in each college, and what kind of person you choose to be depends on your heart." Kind Harry didn't have time to think deeply about Shaw's words. He said "I know" and opened the door to see how Ron was doing. After Harry came out, in addition to seeing Ron falling to the ground and screaming in pain, he also saw a little fat man standing on each side of the door. "I remember that these two seem to be Draco's followers." In the car, Draco laughed out loud. "Sure, good job, you should teach the poor boy from the Weasley family a lesson." Shaw was speechless. Draco was also a person who remembered food but not beatings. He was obviously spoiled by his parents. He threw a book on Draco's face. "If you can learn more skills, maybe you can speak more firmly." Draco stuck out his tongue, took the book and read it silently. After Shaw's battle with the entire Slytherin, and then being sought after by everyone, so now he more or less understands the truth that strength is everything. After that, except for Hermione occasionally asking Shaw some questions and Draco buying a bunch of snacks, there was no more trouble. Well, except for the occasional little fan girl secretly looking at Shaw through the crack of the door. Then Draco didn't dare to despise Hermione in person, so the atmosphere in the car was quite good. The sky gradually darkened, and the Hogwarts Express was really fast. It took almost a whole day to get to Hogwarts, which was much faster than riding an electric car. The broadcast also sounded. "We will arrive at Hogwarts in 10 minutes. Students, please change into school uniforms and put your suitcases in the car. Someone will take them to your dormitories." Shaw put away his books, stood up and said to Hermione. "Madam, please go out for a while. We need to change clothes." Hermione, who was absorbed in reading, immediately panicked. "Ah, my suitcase is not in this compartment. Ah, I forgot to promise to help Neville find a toad." After Hermione left in a hurry with her books, Shaw and Draco changed into plain school uniforms. Because they had not been sorted yet, there was no logo on the school uniforms, and the sleeves and scarves did not change color. After getting out of the carriage, Draco saw Goyle and Black still standing there stupidly, and Shaw looked teasing. Draco suddenly felt that these two followers were also stupid, and ordered unhappily, "Hurry up and change clothes." A few minutes later, the four got off the train. The platform was crowded with people, and there was a tall giant in the distance calling out, "First graders, please gather here." Shaw couldn't help but sigh. "Hogwarts, here I come." But just as he finished speaking, several figures apparat in front of him, a thin witch wearing emerald green robes, a lady's wizard hat, and a serious look spoke. "Mr. Black, given that you were involved in a fight on the train earlier, please follow me to Hogwarts. Chapter 18. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shaw thought for a moment and knew that this Sirius, which was Professor McGonagall, the vice principal of Hogwarts, and also an older cat lady. He nodded without panic. Okay, Professor McGonagall, let's go now. McGonagall looked at this elegant and polite boy and could hardly imagine that he would be a violent person. Draco asked nervously. Professor, will Shaw be expelled? McGonagall shook her head. I don't know. 12 directors have come to Hogwarts and are discussing this unprecedented train fight with Dumbledore in the principal's office. Hermione also hurried over at this time, and she explained anxiously. Professor, it's not Shaw's fault. It was those seniors who called me a mudblood, so Shaw got angry and fought with them. McGonagall's face looked much uglier. Is there anything else? Thank you for the testimony, lady. But I think you should take the boat to Hogwarts. Hermione and Draco wanted to say something, but Shaw interrupted. Okay, go take the boat and experience the path of the founder. Believe me, I'll be fine. Draco, save me a seat. Okay, I'll wait for you. Sure, don't worry. My father is also a school director. He will protect you. After Hermione and Draco left, McGonagall said to the professors behind. You go and escort the injured students to the school hospital. I will take Mr. Black to the principal's office. Several professors looked at Shaw with an ambiguous look, especially a young professor with a scarf on his head. After they turned around and walked towards the train, McGonagall reached out her hand. Hold my arm. The principal has temporarily opened the anti-apparition restriction in the principal's office. We have to hurry up and can't delay the sorting ceremony at the beginning of the school year. Shaw reached out and grabbed McGonagall's hand, and then with a whoosh, the two disappeared. When Shaw felt the uncomfortable experience of squeezing out of the flushing toilet again, although his body was very uncomfortable, he no longer retched. He and McGonagall appeared on the 8th floor of Hogwarts Castle at this moment. What came into view was a huge dripstone bird beast. After seeing McGonagall and Shaw, the bird beast spoke coldly. Command. Sizzle honeybee candy. After McGonagall said the command, Shaw only felt the ground shaking, and then the bird beast began to rotate slowly, climbing up like an elevator, revealing a spiral staircase. After stopping, McGonagall took Shaw up the stairs, and soon the door of the principal's office was within reach. Professor McGonagall kindly straightened Shaw's collar and said in a gentle tone. Don't be nervous later. You just need to tell the truth. Headmaster Dumbledore will make the decision for you. Hogwarts will not give up a genius like you. Shaw was not nervous at all, but he still bowed to thank him. Thank you for your concern, Professor. Professor McGonagall pushed open the door and let Shaw go in by himself. She was still busy welcoming the first-year wizards and presiding over the sorting ceremony. The headmaster's office is a luxurious room with a duplex structure. Behind the large desk is a row of bookshelves arranged in a semicircle. Various exquisite silverware is placed on the long tables with thin legs around, and magical portraits of past headmasters are hung on the walls. Among them, what Shaw noticed most was a silver sword in a glass container and a colorful phoenix dozing on a gilded bird stand. As for the group of people who glared at him, Shaw did not take it seriously. He just nodded slightly to Malfoy among them. Dumbledore, who was sitting in an office chair, kindly joked to Shaw, who came in and looked around. It seems that Mr. Black is not nervous, and his mentality is very good. Before Shaw could speak, a middle-aged wizard with a cold expression and greasy hair spoke sarcastically. Arrogant people always look down on everything, but they don't know how unforgivable their mistakes are. Headmaster, I suggest that Mr. Black be expelled directly. Shaw didn't need to guess that this must be Snape, the arrogant man, who really has a no-wife face. Malfoy in the crowd stammered and didn't say anything to help, but an elegant old man with a vigorous spirit took the lead to help. It's just a bunch of ignorant kids playing around. There's no need to be so serious. Old Furley, your granddaughter didn't go to the hospital, so you're just saying it lightly. Humph, I think this kid from the Muggle world has long forgotten the nobility and elegance of the Black family and only knows violence. As a school director, my Knott family firmly opposes his admission. As a former school director, Black's children should have an exemption. This won't work. These people kept arguing, and not all of the 12 directors wanted to punish Shaw. There were 6 or 7 families like the Fry family, which had just eased, and the Burns family, which remained neutral. They just suggested that Shaw be put in solitary confinement, and Dumbledore looked on calmly and didn't care. He wanted to explore Shaw's character and the attitudes of certain people through this incident, but Shaw was very impatient and didn't want to continue playing along with these people. The intentions of those opposing directors were nothing more than to let Shaw express his position now. As long as he stopped arguing with them and pursuing those industries, the beating could probably be written off. This was also the reason why the train was put on the train before. The motivation for Cuss to take the initiative to provoke was that some of these families did not expect the result to be like this. The Slytherin students were almost wiped out, which was a typical example of pretending to be powerful but getting slapped in the face. Although these people are crazy now, they can also take the opportunity to force them. Their children can't be beaten for nothing. It can only be said that these families are used to being arrogant and blinded by interests, and they can't see Shaw's huge potential. Since Shaw dared to hit people, he naturally had a way to counterattack. He didn't hesitate, walked directly to the desk, and handed Dumbledore a note. "Professor, I think you can take a look at this before considering whether to expel me. I think Hogwarts still needs me." A gleam of light flashed in Dumbledore's eyes, and he looked at Shaw through his blue glasses, then took the note and opened it, but after reading the content of the note, his expression became serious, and he did not continue to ask Shaw about the specific situation. The two of them tacitly reached a deal, so Dumbledore stood up and said directly to the 12 directors who were still arguing. "Okay, the opening banquet is about to begin. Everyone, please go back. As for Shaw's punishment, his future dean will naturally punish him." Old Knott and other people who opposed the most fiercely were naturally dissatisfied. They couldn't go in vain today. "Dumbledore, we directors have the right, But when they continued to refute, they suddenly felt a huge momentum coming from Dumbledore, as if the flow of air slowed down. Until then, everyone remembered that Dumbledore was the greatest wizard of this century. When he wanted to be polite, he was naturally a good guy, but once he was serious, he was a complete white devil. Not to mention the other party's strength, their influence alone would make them suffer. The 12 directors had no choice but to leave the principal's office. When old Fry left, he wanted to invite Shaw to his home for Christmas, but Shaw politely refused. Snape glanced at Shaw gloomily, waved his sleeves, and left like a big bat. Dumbledore regained his kind look and said with a smile, "It seems that Professor Snape has misunderstood you. You must explain it to him in the future." Shaw didn't care. "Don't worry, Principal. When I enter Slytherin, I will naturally have many opportunities to make peace with the Dean." Dumbledore was surprised. "Oh. You want to join Slytherin? Actually, Gryffindor is pretty good too. Your Uncle Sirius also graduated from Gryffindor. If he hadn't made a mistake, he would have become a great warrior." Shaw didn't want to argue with the old bee about this. "Professor, it's getting late. I still need to attend the sorting ceremony. As for the matter on the note, I will let you know when I have the exact news." Dumbledore frowned slightly, looked at the content of the note again, and then waved his hand, and the note burned out of thin air. "Well, you are very sensible, and I am also relieved. Why don't we go to the opening banquet together? Come and hold my hand. As the headmaster, there is always a little convenience." Just as Shaw put his hand on Dumbledore's arm, a headmaster in a frame on the wall spoke. "Please wait, Albus, let me talk to Shaw. Boy, why don't you go to the room on the second floor of the old house where the family tree is hidden to chat with me?" Dumbledore seemed to know who was talking, and did not stop his action, waving at the Phoenix Fox. "Phileas, next time, the sorting ceremony is almost over, you can't let your descendants of the Black family not enter the college." Then the Phoenix Fox spread its wings and flew to Dumbledore's shoulder, and a pleasant phoenix cry sounded, and Dumbledore and Shaw disappeared after the sparks exploded. In the Great Hall half an hour ago, Professor McGonagall began the sorting. Hannah Abbott. But at this time, in addition to the nervousness of the little wizards waiting to be sorted, everyone was more concerned about the person who overthrew Slytherin. I saw Shaw being taken away by Professor McGonagall before. People were talking about it. Is Shaw really fired? Chapter 19. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The lights in the Hogwarts Hall were brilliant, thousands of candles were floating in the air, the dome was a bright sky, and 4 long tables were full of young wizards. The sorting hat was sorting Harry Potter, and then there was a shout. Gryffindor. Huh, we have Harry Potter. Harry was not very happy after being sorted into Gryffindor, and he seemed absent-minded when facing the warm hospitality of Ron and other Lion students. After a while, Professor McGonagall was sorting the last young wizard. Seeing that Shaw still did not show up, Harry couldn't help but feel a little nervous, and looked at the Slytherin table from time to time. There were wounded people there at the moment, but those wounded people seemed very happy, and Draco, who was sorted into Slytherin, was arguing with some senior students with red eyes and thick neck. Harry turned his eyes and looked at the Ravenclaw table again, and saw that Hermione was also very anxious like himself. Ron looked at Harry's performance and said indignantly, "Harry, you and Shaw are not the same kind of people, and he may have been expelled by now." Harry didn't say anything. He suddenly felt that Ron might not be a friend worth making. He was too narrow-minded. Harry silently recalled some of the things he had just said to the Sorting Hat. He clearly wanted to go to Slytherin, so why did the Sorting Hat say that he was more suitable for Gryffindor? When crossing the lake before, Harry heard Hermione say that although Shaw was a pure blood, he was also an orphan. He also grew up in the Muggle world and wandered around. His life was even more miserable than his own, but Shaw relied on his own abilities to make a living in the Muggle world, and now he is also extraordinary after coming to the magic world. Hermione also said that Shaw went to Slytherin to change the minds of those potential dark wizards. It was great. Harry felt that Shaw lived the way he wanted, and this was his role model. I remembered what Shaw said to me again, living as a good person or a bad person depends only on your heart. Harry wanted to go to Slytherin to help Shaw realize his dream, but the Sorting Hat finally sorted him into Gryffindor. Alas! Harry sighed, and suddenly realized that someone was staring at him in the classroom. He turned his head and saw a gloomy professor staring at him. Harry's forehead hurt, and he covered it with his hand, but before he could think about it, a burst of ethereal and beautiful bird calls suddenly sounded in the hall, and then a dazzling fire flashed in the middle of the teacher's seat. The next moment, Dumbledore and Shaw walked out of the fire together, and the whole hall was silent, especially in Slytherin. The air pressure was quite low, and many people with bandages looked extremely ugly, as if they had lost their parents. Then the students of the other 3 colleges cheered immediately, and Harry also stood up and clapped excitedly. Dumbledore patted Shaw on the shoulder. "It seems that you are very popular. Everything is just right. Let's go to the sorting house." Shaw nodded slightly, and walked towards Professor McGonagall calmly amid the applause and cheers. Professor McGonagall had a complicated expression, but was relieved, and motioned Shaw to sit on the triangular stirrup. After Shaw sat down, he looked at the grey hat full of patches in McGonagall's hand with some disdain, but he didn't say much about helping to wash the hat. He had been in the limelight enough today, and it would be too much if he continued to show off. When the sorting hat was put on his head, a hoarse voice sounded above his head. "Boy, you have learned the brain block technique well, but please let go of your mind, otherwise how can I help you sort?" Shaw's eyelids twitched. If he dared to let go of his mind and didn't mention the possibility of being spied on about the crossing and the system, it would be fun if the sorting hat knew his talent in dark magic and finally shouted Azkaban. So he spoke directly to the sorting hat. "I'm going to Slytherin." The sorting hat just found it interesting. "Oh, are you teaching me how to do things? You think so, right? I'm a pure blood, very ambitious, and I admire honor, pretending. Where else can I go if not Slytherin?" If you tell me to do it, I'll do it. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? Aren't you afraid that I'll assign you to another college? Shaw was so tired. A broken hat had so many things to do. He always had to convince people with virtue, with a wave of his hand, a blue water ball with a diameter of 1 meter slowly appeared out of thin air, and then quickly rotated to the top of the sorting hat. In the seat, Dumbledore, who was originally smiling, narrowed his eyes suddenly, and many thoughts flashed through his mind. When did his trick spread out? Professor McGonagall was even more stunned. First, he was amazed at Shaw's silent and wandless spells and magical talent, and then he whispered to Shaw to put away the spell. Shaw pretended not to hear it, and he was already naked that he started to threaten the sorting hat. Broken hat, if you let me go to another college, I will make you lose face even more, such as giving you a bath. Let me tell you first, my water has an electric shock effect. Dozens of students have experienced it on the train today. Do you want to try it? That the sorting hat opened its mouth wide and said after a long while. Ah, thousands of years later, you are still the first person to threaten me. I am the relic of the founder, extremely precious and priceless. Ah, stop, stop, stop quickly. The sorting hat wanted to pretend to be powerful, but when the rotating water ball touched it, it immediately became cowardly and shouted immediately. Slytherin. That with its announcement, the hall was silent again, but not entirely, and 3 people immediately jumped onto the long table to celebrate. That was Draco and his 2 useless men. Huh, we have Shaw. Shore cancelled the spell, stood up and bowed slightly to apologize to McGonagall, who was about to burst into anger, and walked to the Slytherin table, nodding to Hermione at the Ravenclaw table. What the hell, why was Shaw sorted into Slytherin? He made those people completely lose face. Damn, the sorting hat must have Alzheimer's disease. The other 3 colleges once again burst into complaints and regrets, saying all kinds of things. Draco jumped off the table excitedly, pulled Shaw to sit next to him, and then spoke incoherently. I thought you would be expelled. It was my father who saved you. I just had a quarrel with those people you defeated. You don't know that they didn't dare to talk back to me. Now you are here. Let's dominate Slytherin together in the future. Shore was too lazy to complain about Draco's self-praise, nor did he expose Malfoy's mysterious behavior. Seeing that Shaw was sitting well, Dumbledore stood up and knocked on the silver cup on the table, making a crisp sound. The students in the auditorium were still very respectful and quiet, turning their eyes to listen to the headmaster's speech. It's a new year again. This semester, we have a few new things to note, especially for first-year students. Students are prohibited from sneaking into the Forbidden Forest. If you don't want to die in too much pain, please don't go to the 4th floor. Finally, welcome everyone to Hogwarts. I have a few more words to say, which are, idiot, crybaby, residue, twist. After saying that, he bowed slightly and waved his hand. The banquet officially began, and all kinds of English special delicacies appeared out of thin air on the empty long table. The little wizards who had been hungry for a day competed to be the dry eaters, eating happily with chicken legs in one hand and steak in the other. The Slytherins ate relatively elegantly. The first and second-year wizards near Shaw actually admired him very much, and they all tried to make friends with Shaw. Draco, who was beside him, put a piece of steak into his mouth with a knife and fork, and suddenly found that Shaw's tableware seemed different from his own. Why was it a pair of small sticks? No, even the dishes are different, such as golden meatballs, a plate of grilled fish sprinkled with a lot of unknown seasonings, and even the main course is a bowl of milky white rice. Sure, what are you eating? Why is it different from ours? Shore took a sip of tomato and egg soup and said nonchalantly. Oh, I'm not used to British food, so I asked my house elf to make Chinese food. Draco came over and smelled it, and he swallowed his saliva because of the fragrance. Can I try it? Shore looked at 7 or 8 Chinese dishes and felt that he couldn't finish them by himself, so he nodded in agreement. Eat it. Draco excitedly used a knife and fork to pick up a piece of braised pork and put it in his mouth. After chewing a few times, his eyes lit up. Shore looked at Draco and wanted to pick up the food with a knife and fork full of saliva, which was disgusting. He quickly found a large plate and put some of each dish on it, letting Draco eat it by himself. Draco didn't think too much, he ate quickly, and although he blushed from the spicy dishes, he continued to eat these dishes he had never eaten before. Goyle and Crabbe wanted to try them, but he drove them away. At this moment, he felt that the various expensive dishes he had eaten before were simply shit. No wonder Shaw said he couldn't get used to them, and he would feel uncomfortable in the future. At this time, Alice came over. "Sure, can I sit here? What are you eating?" Chapter 20. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Looking at the beautiful Alice, Shaw thought of Old Fly who had spoken for him in the principal's office before. They were equally elegant and could be said to be of the same lineage. He kicked Draco, who was eating hard, under the table with his foot, and Draco looked up blankly. "What's wrong, Shaw?" "You go eat over there, I'll talk to my senior sister about something." Draco looked at Shaw and Alice, showing an expression of "I understand," and then moved his butt to Goyle's side, not forgetting to take his big plate with him. After Alice sat down gracefully, she glanced at the exotic food on the table. Although the fragrance was fragrant, she didn't pay any more attention to it. She was a person who could restrain her desires, and then she whispered about business. "Grandfather just told me about the movements of those pure-blood families through the two-way mirror. Do you want to know?" Shaw also stopped eating, took a napkin and wiped his mouth before saying, "I don't want to know. It's nothing but a bunch of petty tricks, not worth mentioning." Although Alice felt that Shaw was bragging, she also felt that he was very confident. After thinking for a while, she said again, "Well, the methods of the Pure Blood Family Association are nothing more than those: threats, framing, suppression, etc. As long as you stay in Hogwarts, you will be fine." "Have you heard of the Pure Blood Association?" Shaw was stunned. Pure Blood Association. An alliance established by all pure blood families. Alice nodded and shook her head. It may have been an alliance of all pure blood families in the past, with the main purpose of continuing blood and controlling power. However, when the Dark Lord attempted to control this organization, the Pure Blood Association split, and all the neutral and lawful pure bloods withdrew. Now the Pure Blood Association is controlled by those pure blood first families. They almost control more than half of the power of the Ministry of Magic and half of the industries in the British magic world, so their power and influence are very large. This is also the main reason why so many Death Eaters were able to escape legal sanctions. Shaw was surprised, but felt it was reasonable. "Oh, then." Alice looked at Shaw, who was still calm, with a bad temper. She didn't know whether the other party was really stupid or pretending to be stupid. "It means that with your current strength, you are not enough to take the initiative to find trouble with those families. Grandfather asked me to tell you that temporary grievances are nothing. Improving strength is the most important thing. Grandfather will help you mediate and let them not." Shaw waved his hand and chuckled. "Thank you, Grandfather, but I have my own plans." Alice clenched her fists, wanting to punch the arrogant Shaw. She wondered if she had done something wrong before. Why did she place the bet so quickly? Shaw found it interesting that Alice couldn't keep her elegance. "Do you think I'm arrogant and conceited? What do you think? Then you're right. There's nothing wrong with my IQ. You." Shaw saw that the joke was almost over, so he stretched out his hand to signal Alice to calm down. "I have my own reasons for being arrogant. I'll tell you a little secret. I've only been learning magic for a month." Alice was really shocked after hearing this. If Shaw really only learned magic for a month, he would be stronger than the average adult wizard, and comparable to the average aura level. Then if he was allowed to study steadily for 2 or 3 years, how powerful would he be? To put it bluntly, in the magic world, strength is still respected. Before, Alice made a decisive bet because she saw Shaw's magical talent, but the most she expected was to invest in a wizard with the potential to become a legendary wizard in advance. But at that time, she only thought Shaw had potential, but it was not easy to become a legendary wizard. There have been only 3 in the past 100 years, 2 Dark Lords and 1 White Lord, but now Alice thinks Shaw's talent is unprecedented, stronger than Voldemort and Dumbledore. The family's investment in him must be infinitely strengthened. Maybe the opportunity for the family to regain its glory is just around the corner. Alice stood up in a panic and left in a hurry. She had to inform her grandfather quickly. Draco moved back and asked curiously, Sure, what's wrong with Alice? Did you reject her confession? Shore stuffed Draco's mouth with a chicken leg. What does a little brat know? Can't delicious food stop you from eating? In the teacher's seat, Quirrell lowered his head to eat dinner, but his eyes looked at Harry and Shaw from time to time. The voice of Voldemort echoed in his mind. That Shaw is the son of my most loyal servant Regulus. That's great, I have a chance to meet him. Quirrell whispered. Master, the Daily Prophet has published that Regulus is an undercover sent by Dumbledore to your side. Voldemort said disdainfully. Humph, what do you know? Regulus will never betray me. Dumbledore is still so hypocritical, always using his set of love to influence him. He must have seen Shaw's extraordinary magical talent, so he helped Regulus to clear his name, just like he saw Snape's talent for potions and helped to guarantee it. Quirrell choked and dared not say anything more. After the banquet, Dumbledore returned to being the unreliable headmaster, stood up and asked everyone to start singing the school song. He also personally acted as the conductor, waving his wand in the air to change the colorful lyrics. Then the school song of various tones filled the hall, although it was messy but very childlike, especially the Weasley twins. They used the tune used exclusively for funerals, which was the most popular for a while, and many young wizards were led astray. Then the prefects of each college began to come and organize the first-year students to go to their respective lounges. The prefect of Slytherin is Alice, who has returned. After all, the image of other prefects is not very decent. Along the way, most of the first-year students surrounded Shaw and Draco, and only 1 or 2 purebloods followed behind alone. Come to think of it, even if the sacred 28 families have students enrolled every year, not counting many such as the Gaunt family, there are only about 28 at most. If some are divided into other colleges, then less than half will enter Slytherin, so most of the Slytherin students are half-blood wizards, and a small half are purebloods who did not enter the sacred 28. Blood, so the number of people who really targeted Shaw was no more than 10, but these people were powerful and influential, and Jing Tsung's talents seemed to be so many, but when Shaw showed his strong strength, he was more suitable for Slytherin, a college that worships the strong, compared with the reckless students in Gryffindor, the Little Eagles in Ravenclaw who were only immersed in their own world, and the loyal and honest Badgers in Hufflepuff. Slytherin, an elite college that respects the strong, is still suitable for gathering supporters. It is also the easiest to get a level 2 or even level 3 belief value. The origin, this is why Shaw insisted on coming to Slytherin. He wanted to copy Voldemort's routine. As for the few troublemakers, if they don't obey, just beat them up. If they don't obey again, beat them up a few more times. Alice has been talking about the glory of Slytherin, and didn't say anything about the theory of pure blood supremacy. It seems that the concept of the Fry family is quite good. The Slytherin lounge is in the dungeon of Hogwarts. It is underground in the Black Lake, so it is a bit damp. A group of people walked along the spiral stone steps and came to a wall. Alice said the password. Glory. The stone wall slowly opened, revealing a bright common room, with a strong flame burning in the fireplace and torches on the surrounding walls. The windows of the lounge were large, and half of the sky was transparent, so you could see the rippling scenery at the bottom of the Black Lake outside, and many unknown small fish swimming past the window. Alice introduced the little wizards as she led them into the lounge. This is the Slytherin lounge. If you want to pass through the entrance, you have to recite the password. The password will be posted on the bulletin board every Monday, and it is strictly forbidden to pass the password outside. When they arrived at the lounge, everyone saw their big bat-like Dean Snape standing and walking out of the corner. He glanced at Shaw with a hawk-like look, and said indifferently. According to the tradition of Slytherin, the first grade needs to elect an invisible prefect. The winner is honored. Let's start. The senior students who had not yet gone to rest also became interested and gathered around to watch the fun.